we're going to get a lot of changes to some cards that have been in a lot of places in the metagame recently. We're also not seeing changes to a lot of other cards and decks that have been in a lot of places in the metagame lately. And then we're going to see some buffs to some cards that I'm not certain it's going to matter. Let's talk about all this stuff right now, though. Starting off with Black Cat. Black Cat got buffed to a 1-5 stat line after its 4-10 stat line and its 2-6 stat line just wasn't being played. Now at a 1-5, she was getting played in a lot of decks as just a free card that if you didn't play on the turn you drew her, you just didn't play her, and you accepted that. But now she's getting pushed to a 1-4 for the fact that it's just too free of an inclusion in a lot of decks. It was not really played as any sort of like, there's no game plan around her. It's just a free card you put in your deck. And that's a lot of what this OTA is trying to do. It's trying to remove the cards that you don't need to, that don't require like a cost in your deck. It's trying to bring the cards down into like, okay, cool. If you're gonna put this in your deck, there is a cost, there's a sacrifice to it. Not just the cost, of course, of 1 energy for Black Cat, but there is a cost to putting this inside of your deck. Now going to a 1-4, I think she makes a lot more sense. 1-5 feels like a stat line you can maybe do with cards like Titania and Martyr, as they actually, there's a large punishment that comes with them. However, with cards like Hydra Bob and Black Cat, at this 1-4 stat line, it's a lot better than the 1-5. I think 1-5 just doesn't really give you any detriments, doesn't really hurt you in a lot of different ways, and makes it so that even if you don't get the detriment that you're supposed to get, which, again, Black Cat's detriment was just if you don't play her the turn you draw her, you don't get her, but I don't think it mattered enough. And straight up, Second Inner said that she is the most efficient 1-cost card in the game, just in terms of raw points, which is a real problem. And I think this is a card that has made sense to me as a 1-4. Basically, I think like a week after we got the change to a 1-5, I said, okay, cool, this is going to be a 1-4 in the future. And we're here now. I like it. I think it makes a lot of sense, and I'm glad about this nerf. Sauron's an interesting one. Now, Sauron has a very large detriment, right? So Sauron is the honor availability of remove the abilities from all ongoing cards in your deck. But that detriment really isn't a big detriment when you have cards like Starbrand and Red Skull and Typhoid Mary and Lizard and Ebony Maw, which if you just put those 5 cards in deck with Sauron, it just matters so little. And it used to be a very large detriment that Sauron would be removing all the ongoing abilities, but now there's just too many benefits you can get with it, so it doesn't make a big difference. And Second Inner said that Sauron strategies have gradually continued to improve in the win rate, and for how much of the impact of the game when Sauron is played on the first turn, which I think makes a lot of sense, and I'm glad they're willing to make this change. I'm glad that Sauron's going to be hopefully in a better spot than it was before. I didn't take a big issue with this one, and talking to a couple of other buddies who are better at this game than I am, they were a little bit surprised by this one, I think. But in the end, I feel like it's just too free of an inclusion and too much of a good cards deck that you can do. And that's what Second Inner feels like they're trying to be continually cutting down on, where it's just like, all right, cool. There's not really a strategy in this. There's not really any like specific thing you're trying to do with this deck. You're just trying to say, hey, let me just put all of my points into big stuff and then win. And I think especially in conjunction with cards like Iron Patriot, I think Sauron was way too good. Also talking about stuff where it just allows you to play in a free enchantress, which is really great, obviously. And this change makes sense. I think a lot of people won't enjoy this one as much, and I get that, but I think this does make a lot more sense as the fact that even if you are starting with a little bit less power when you play the Sauron, the rest of your deck is going to be doing so much more that I don't think it matters. I think you're going to be able to get an extremely large amount of points that this 1 point on Sauron makes, so they don't need to, hit 1 or 2 other cards that are pretty impactful, like bring the Ebony Maw down to 1-6. They don't need to bring Red Skull down to 5-14. They don't need to do that stuff if they just take down a little bit of the power away from Sauron. Makes sense to me. I personally enjoy it, and I think this tracks very well. So originally in the Golden Gauntlet qualifiers for the 3rd round, before I got tapped to try to take care of some other like back-end stuff, my plan was I'm going to be running Supergiant in this deck. I'm going to do a Supergiant deck because I think end of turn is everywhere. And yes, they've nerfed end of turn a little bit, but now still Supergiants remaining as a very powerful piece. And they said when they buffed Supergiant originally to a 4/7, they said, we're just gonna take a big swing here and see where it lands. And I think it was a good swing, but I also think the 4/6 makes a lot of sense, as it's just a little too easy in order to gain priority. And obviously that's what you want to do, because you want to be able to Goliath and or Cosmo or Negasonic on the final turn and mess with your opponent's plan very greatly. In which I'm glad they're going to make this change to Supergiant. I think it's a good card, and I think it's still going to be a completely fine card. I like Supergiant as a card. I like what it brings to the game, and I think it just doesn't need to be as good, right? They're just trying to say they like it when there are more synergizing pieces. They like when there's a big combo deck, which I think we've had a lot of that in the meta recently, personally. And I don't know how... I understand they like it, and I understand they're going to continue trying to do stuff like this, right? Where they're going to be taking down these tech cards just a little bit in order to make it so that, yes, they may be technically, you know, they may be worse now, but they're also trying to make it so that you can run this inside of a specific deck. But it really is making it so a lot of these cards that are more technical, you don't want to play them. I don't know if this is going to completely kill Supergiant. I don't want to say that it will, but I definitely think it's going to hurt Supergiant in a big way. Suji, as some people like to call it. And I think I would personally like to see this Supergiant, I don't know, I want it to be an okay spot. I liked it as a counter to the end of turn stuff, which worked better than Ghost, because Ghost just sucks, straight up. But I think it's just not amazing. And I don't know what they're going to do with it now. I don't know how well this card is going to land. We'll have to wait and see, obviously, to find that out in particular. But as we're going to continue pulling, like I said, pushing more and more into these combo-centric decks, making it so that these tech cards that you're going to be running, you have to run one or two, and they have to be really specific and really niche. Otherwise, you're just going to be dying to certain piles of cards. It's going to make it a lot harder to play some decks. And it's interesting to see this shift in the metagame, where I would argue for like the first half of the year, we were in this metagame where it was just like, okay, cool, I'm just going to tech you out with whatever I can, especially with the introduction of cards like Iron Patriot that you can use with Gladiator and such. You could just be like, all right, cool, I'm just gonna get points down on the board and you can't stop me. And then if you try to stop me, guess what? I've got all the tech cards that just say no to whatever you're trying to do anyway. And then we're getting they're trying to revert all this stuff, right? They're trying to bring the tech back. And this is one of those changes. I just don't know how well it's going to land. If you want to ask me how well some of these will land, though, I definitely think Goliath is a great one. I think this card sucks. I hate the fart. I have said it before, I'll say it again. I hate the fart. So this card taking another point of power down is great. Second Nerd said, this was interesting to me, because I had, again, I was talking to some buddies, and they, because I like to try to get more feedback and more opinions on these OTA changes before I just say my own, because I don't know, I think it helps when I'm trying to yap about this stuff. And their point was they didn't personally feel like Goliath was a large problem. And I can understand that logic. However, I don't know if I think that Goliath is a card that is great for Marvel Snap as a whole. Like, it's good in terms of the fact that now it's no longer just fighting for or trying to lose priority on the final turn, now that you've got some coin flips and you've got some different options inside of your decks. However, I honestly think it was fine at the 6/6 stat line. So I'm annoyed, not really annoyed, but I didn't like the fact they reverted it, but it is what it is. It probably wasn't great. But they also did say, apparently, Goliath as a 6/9 was just one of the best 6-drops in the game. Just, they said, and I quote, "It is currently a little too close to the best generic 6-cost card in the game," and they don't want that to be the case for a tech card. So I like it. I like this change in general. I'm happy they are doing this. I'm happy that Goliath is going to be going down a little bit. But and then this goes back into the same point that I was trying to talk about with Supergiant. If you're nerfing all the tech cards and then you're really pushing into combos, it's just who can make numbers bigger. And I personally enjoy it, but I've seen a lot of people talk about how they don't. They really do not enjoy just the numbers package, where it's just like, hey, who can get bigger numbers? Who can do crazier things? And that's it. That's what the metagame boils down to. Again, I don't mind it. I like that. But I understand a lot of people don't. And so I'm trying to figure out, is there something they could do about that? Is there a way that you can mess with it? Or is stuff like this good? Is it good to make these types of changes? I think on one hand, I like this Goliath change, but I don't honestly know about the Supergiant one on the other hand. So it's not a catch-all. It's not to say it's always best to nerf all the tech cards, right? Like, even if I might not be the biggest fan of tech, I understand that it has a role in the meta. It allows the decks that are, you know, potentially weaker to have a chance to step up, but it turns it into a sandcastle kicker that I really don't enjoy. So it's interesting. I'm glad that they are taking at least a point of power away from Goliath. I think that's going to be fair, and I don't think I want to see more of the fart in the game. I like the fact legitimately that it doesn't work on skills though, and as more and more skills enter the game, this card's going to keep getting worse and worse. And so I love the fact that more and more skills are going to be entering the game. I think Goliath, it gets worse and worse, and I think cards like Werewolf by Night get better and better. Cards I think are fun get better, cards that I think are bad get worse. So I'll take it. All right, if you saw the thumbnail, you saw that I threw Mercury up there, and I'm doing it in order, right? I'm not just trying to like hold you to the middle of the video, whatever. I'd hold it to the end if I really wanted to grab everyone here. But they said that this is the largest change. They are changing Mercury to be a 3/4 from a 2/2. This is big. So what tech cards do we have left at 2 cost? They just took Shadow King away from a 2/2, made it a 3/4 as well. And I think Shadow King actually landed really decently there. So is Mercury going to land really decently as well? I think is a really fair question. And they say, apparently, and this is surprising to me, as people who are in the top elo, I think it's called, like, I don't know, the top 100 or 200, whatever you want to call it, they absolutely think move is a problem. And they say move is too good in the game. And I don't know if that's truthful. We're about to enter a brand new spider season. I already got some of the assets behind me. You can see over in, I think it's like this section over here. And so I'm going to even mention some of those data mined cards and such as they haven't even officially announced them, which I think is always funny and interesting. Anyway, but Mercury taking a point of power is taking a point of energy increase. God, that's such an awkward sentence, but I refuse to do a second take on this. And then gaining 2 more points of power. I don't know if it's going to be fair, and I understand they don't really want to make to make these types of move like counters so good. I just don't know if this is going to be a good landing, and I'm interested if move is actually too good. As I stated in the past, I think when a move deck has been really powerful, last time we saw that happen, it was, I believe, with the Aranya and like move bounce, and that was amazing at the top elo of ladder, in the top like 100 or whatever, but it didn't get changed for like 3 months. And so I think we're going to be seeing a thing where, yes, they're buffing move right before a brand new season with introducing new movement cards. It's not even a conspiracy thing. I just legit, that is why they're doing it, in my personal opinion. Doesn't even, like, it just makes sense. Why would they not want to make it so you can do more things in their new season? But now it's going to be a thing of, okay, is 3/4 actually fine? Like, do you still run this? It's maybe not just a free inclusion, which is something I was talking about earlier, right? Do you not just want to throw it into your deck as a 2-drop, right? Because then you don't have to deal with it anymore. But is a 3 fine for it? I don't know. They're also saying that, like, they're nerfing the Mercury Cannonball combo even more so, right? That combo's actually been it's been a lot less of it. Like, you don't see it as much anymore, especially with Shang-Chi even taking the hit. You're still not even seeing a lot of Mercury Cannonball, which I'm kind of surprised with. I'm not complaining about either, but I think it's just a thing where I like the fact that counters can exist, and I think Mercury has been a very good card to play. It's just going to be I feel like it's just going to be really awkward at the 3-cost slot. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong entirely. Maybe it's actually going to be awesome at this 3-cost slot, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be stellar personally. And I don't know how I will feel about it, I think in like a week or two. And interestingly enough, in case this isn't obvious, there's another OTA happening next week, and then the Golden Gauntlet Finals are happening the week following that. Or not even the week following, sorry. They're happening like 2 days following the next OTA. So there's like at least a decent chunk of changes inside of this OTA getting ready for that Golden Gauntlet, and then there's going to be another one happening in 2 weeks. So Mercury was one of the most played cards in the previous Gauntlet, and I think it's going to be coming back pretty effectively. But I don't know if it's going to see as much of a like metagame share as it did before. I don't know. I like this change in general. I'm also concerned by it because I do think move is a good deck. When I'm saying the players in the top infinite feel like that, I also do. Like, I don't think you have a good answer for a lot of movement stuff, right? You can do Cosmic Ghost Rider on like a Madam Web, but you also then have to guess with the Shadow King. You have to guess with other, like, there's so much stuff you have to mess with and just try to hope it all works out correctly for you that I don't know how much I really love this change for Mercury. So I'm, in the end, I think I like it. I don't know if I've said it in the end like 9 times, but this This is going to be one that we're going to have to wait and see on and see, you know, maybe the new season is going to be busted. Maybe all these new cards with like, what, it's like Spider Punk. You've also got cards like Web Sling. And I want to say like, it's like, it's not Grim. There's some other guy, Ezekiel Sims, I want to say, who jumps around the board. I don't know. We'll see. We'll wait and see. I'm cautiously, actually just cautious. This is a change I didn't expect. I did not expect X23 to lose a point of power. This was never on my bingo card for cards that would get hit. But X23 is going from a 1-2 to a 1-1. And again, I didn't put this on my bingo card, but as I'm thinking about it, I feel like it makes more and more sense as a card that continually is just the benefit to destroy, right? This is, I think, one of the key cards you want in order to play destroy. I actually think it makes a lot of sense that this card gets taken down in a point of power in retrospect, right? Like, I understand they've released a bunch of new cards with like Moira X and Headpool recently, and I think they've even got some cards coming up in a season or two for like the Weapon X season. I think it's data mined in December. That looks to be adding even more tools for destroy. And I don't think you want this card to be too amazing. And like, I like this card. I think it's awesome. It also sucks that I just got this card on my free to play account and then they immediately nerf it. So I don't know, they're probably out to get me here. But destroy it's a good thing when destroy is at the top of the meta deck. Second Dinner says that straight up. But they also want to nerf one of Destroy's strongest cards, and that's what they are doing with this bit. And I think just the benefit of continually keeping that 2 power on the board, potentially buffing it more with like an Agony or Nico's +2 or copying it, whatever. There's so many different ways that you can copy or increase X23's power and then get multiple benefits from its extra destroys. That is the strongest part of X23. You don't play X23 for the 2 power in the end, right? Like you're playing the card so that you can get the extra energy whenever you destroy her. And that makes sense, and it might hurt the deck a little bit, right? You might be seeing a little bit of changes in the way that you're getting your power on the board, but it makes it even a better target for a Carnage now, technically. Makes it better to run like a Deathlock and such. Makes it slightly worse for a card like Venom though, and I feel like this is probably okay to do. People might be like, okay, well, why not nerf one of the brand new cards, right? Why not be nerfing, you know, Moira or Headpool? Or, I don't know, nerf Zombie Captain Marvel. That's a joke. Zombie Captain Marvel sucks. I honestly expected to see her in this OTA if we were talking about Destroy. Or like I don't know, Kiddo. Those cards really aren't as problematic. I think Moira X is the most problematic, I think, out of all those cards, and I still want to wait and see on that. I don't think Headpool's honestly amazing. It's probably fine, but I also think it still clogs your hand up enough that I don't think it's amazing here. But X23, I think is really good. I think X23 is a solid card and has been the best card in the Destroy package pretty much since her introduction into Marvel Snap. So her going down into 1-1 makes a lot of sense, and I think the deck's gonna be fine. It just will, like I said, it just kind of is gonna be a little bit of a ding. It's gonna suck a little bit, but I think Destroy will be fine, and in the end, this is probably a fine change, you know, with a zoomed out scope. Why? We didn't need leader at a 6-5. I've had a thing recently. I've had like I've had epiphany recently, right? Where it's like, I don't get why these cards exist in Marvel Snap. Like, I understand that they were made at one point, right? But I don't know why they exist nowadays, and I think leader is honestly one of those cards. Why do I want leader why is leader a good card for Marvel Snap? It feels similar to Super Scroll to me in a way, where I don't think Super Scroll is a good card for Marvel Snap. I think it just creates things where it's only good in certain metagames, creates a bunch of mirror matches, and is only really impactful in 1 or 2 decks, and then it's just a dead card everywhere else. And considering that more and more decks are getting combo heavy, why is leader a thing? Like, you're gonna put this point of power on leader, maybe it'll get played slightly more, but I really can't see this card getting that much more play. I don't see the benefit of this card in Marvel Snap or it getting this extra point. So maybe this is gonna be a fine change. Maybe it'll be okay. I really was trying to rack my brain and be like, okay, where do I want to play leader? And I had one spot that I was thinking about, and that's it. And it's not gonna even apply to the general populace. What about the Golden Gauntlet? If you're playing in the Golden Gauntlet, you know what your opponent wants to do on their final turn. In Conquest, maybe it's there as well, but like, you know what their final turn play is. You know what their big thing is that they're going to try to do. So why not just leader to copy it potentially? And you know you should know based off of their output and what they've done so far, what their final turn play is going to be if you're a smart player. And so maybe that's where you want to play it. Is that even good though? I don't love it, but it may just be the best option for leader. I hope it's not. I hope there's something else you can do with leader, or there's just nothing you do with leader and second dinner tries to give him a change entirely. I don't love the card in general. I don't think it's an amazing card, and I'm glad that it's gonna get a point of power, I guess, because I don't know, if you give a free point of power, I guess you can give a free point of power. I just don't I don't really want to deal with my final turn play that I've spent so much time making. Someone else just says, thanks. Recently on Twitch, which by the way, I stream there as a little shameless self-plug. But I was talking with my chat and I was saying, okay, what is power creep in Marvel Snap, right? Like what new cards come out that are strictly better than the old cards? And one of the first examples brought to me was Viv, Vision, and Nakia. And I said, that's fair. They even tried to release Viv as a 3-2 in order to like make it so she wasn't as good. But then I asked chat, like, Nakia wasn't really getting played before though, right? Like Nakia wasn't a card people were using. No one was using no one's running a Nakia deck before. So is this power creep, or is it just the fact that as the balance has stabled, honestly, which is, it sounds weird, but as we've had more time in Marvel Snap, we've figured out the correct amount of power we typically want to spend per cost. So Nakia's 3 power with her little bit of extra generation on your cards oftentimes doesn't feel great, and you want to do something more than that. And so I feel like this isn't a power creep situation. I feel like this isn't a situation where you're gonna be like, oh, okay, cool. Second dinner's like, all right, we buff Viv, make sure we buff Nakia as well. No, I think it's just the self-awareness of the community as a whole realizing we want to make sure we're spending our energy effectively. And Nakia at a 3-3 doesn't do that. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't think Nakia at a 3-4 does that either. Maybe it does, maybe I'm wrong entirely, but I don't think it's amazing. But here we are now with a 3-4 Nakia, and it's gonna be different. We're gonna be seeing a different style of, I don't know. This is one of the sections where they actually mention some of the data mined upcoming cards, and they're like, Nakia was Superior Spider-Man, which if you do not know what Superior Spider-Man is, he is a 3-4 with the data mined ability at the start of each turn. If you have any cards with increased power in play, you get +1 energy this turn. So maybe there's something there, right? I honestly think they're probably coping on that bit, and I don't really know where you want to run this except in the same decks of like hand buff and such you were already running. And maybe it is just those places. Maybe it's just going to be Nakia in these spots, but it kind of just feels like a mediocre change in the end, which I'm going to continually state I don't believe is any sort of power creep. I just think this is them trying to be more accurate and make it so that we want to spend energy, use the cards that actually give us value. And that's it, right? Like that's what Marvel Snap comes down to, spending the energy in order to get the power. And we aren't getting that currently with Nakia, and I don't know if we're gonna get that with the new version, but at least it'll be a nudge in potentially a better direction in terms of balance. So I think this is a fair change to make, and I say go for it. Continuing on this buff cadence, it's Spider, Penny Parker's card, generated card, going to a 3-5. Did you know this wasn't already a 3-5? I actually kind of thought it was when I read this note. I'm like, wait, it was actually just a 3-4, and then I read it, and it was actually a 3-3 even before that. So in the end, it was going to be, originally, it was a, you spent 5 energy in total to get maybe 1 more energy next turn, and then you only got 6 power. So it was like a 4-6, but more complicated version of like a Psylocke. And I was kind of shocked when I realized that. I was like, oh, yeah, this should have gotten buffed before. And then I realized it's actually still worse. And I'm like, oh yeah, nope, it should still get buffed now. And I'm glad. I think this is a great change. I like the fact that this card is going to be getting a little bit more power, a little bit more love. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think that it's not a great card, and I don't know if this is going to make it better. This is one of the other spots where Second Dinner specifically talks about some of the other data mine cards that are going to be coming out, right? And they specifically talk about Man Spider with this one. We're being like, hey, Man Spider, if you data mine, by the way, so subject change, it's a 5-1 according to data mines. It says on reveal, merge the last card you played into this with the, and then also says when this merges, double its power. So right? You play spider onto man spider, and then you get to move it again next turn, but it's also a 5 cost there. Why would I do that? I don't get it. I simply do not get it, Second Dinner. Please explain, because it does not track to me in the slightest. We'll wait and see if it's actually beneficial. We'll see if this is even a good change, if this should happen in the slightest. I'm not really sold on it. I think it maybe is fine, but it also doesn't seem to be a necessary change. I don't know. This is a change that they're going to go for, and sure, maybe it's like maybe it's 3-point power. When I say necessary change, I just mean I don't think this is going to get to any more play. Maybe it will. Maybe I can cope with some more merge stuff, but I also don't imagine it's going to be amazing in what it does. I also feel like the fact that I don't even think it's fixed. I don't know if it's fixed, but there's like a thing. I was really stoked to actually try to use this with like a Frankie Ray Nova, and you can't move Frankie Ray Nova with Spider still, by the way, which maybe that doesn't matter. The Frankie Ray Nova also isn't an amazing card either. It just, there's a lot of stuff like that where I'm just like, okay, cool, I'd like to do this. And then it's like, no. Okay, cool, I'm gonna play this onto my man spider. Yeah, sure, on the 6th turn of the game, you're gonna be spending half your energy just to play spider. And then you're just gonna get got by a Shadow King? Really? I don't know. Like I said, it's a free point of power. They can do it. Does it make a difference, though? Probably not, but here's hoping. We have an Electro buff. What's new? Nothing really. Second Dinner said in the past that the Electro buffs will continue until morale improves, and they're continuing with that statement. And I actually think they're now a lot closer to it being potentially a playable card. And it's, as we've gotten more and more ways to increase our energy, I think that it's continually felt like a worse and worse card. And the fact that I think this was like a 3-2 at one point. And that was when it was the only card we had to generate extra energy. And that was it. Why would we use it? I don't know. But Enchantress is now a 5 cost. So you have a reason to do that. They also can mention Man Spider. What if Man Spider, you play it after Electro, and then you just get rid of the debuff of Electro? And then you also double Man Spider's power, making it, in the end, you make it like a 5, I think it's 12? Which is really cool. So like, there's actually legitimate stuff here that makes me think, okay, wait, they might actually be cooking here. This might be a good change. There's enough stuff going on that I feel like we can now do some other things with Electro. We'll see if that actually is the case as, you know, the new season approaches. But this is a card that I'm really uncertain with. It's a 50-50 here for me, where whether this card lands at a 3-5 or it needs to go to a 3-6, because it's similar to what Luna Snow does in the fact that it does give your opponent a benefit or give you a detriment. So the detriment for Luna Snow is that it gives your opponent a benefit. Detriment for Electro is that it just makes you play only 1 card per turn. Obviously, you can overcome that deficit for both of those cards. The question is Electro's deficit worth it? I don't know. I like the fact that this is going to be a 3-5, though. I like the fact they're going to be putting a little bit more power into this card, and I hope it's going to be playable. I don't know. We'll wait and see. But this is another card that it makes sense that they're buffing. I can't really say whether or not it's going to be good. We'll have to wait and see on that one, though. I've literally been standing here for the last, minute trying to figure out how I'm going to end this video, and I don't know. I'm trying to think of, okay, cool. What's some ideas I can send off with? What's my overall takes on this? I don't know. It feels like there's so much of this OTA that just is shutting stuff down, and obviously things need to, if they're too good, Second Dinner needs to bring them down, right? They can also bring stuff up if it's too bad, and they are doing that here as well. But there's so many different types of nerfs in this OTA that I don't know how I'm going to feel about this. I don't know if I love this OTA. I don't know if I hate this OTA. I'm just kind of in a confused state in general about this OTA as a whole. I don't know if it's going to be a completely different metagame, if we're going to be seeing any shifts in the meta whatsoever. What Nakia are we running? Again, I like hand buff, but that's not a good deck. What type of Penny Parker deck are we doing? Are you what are you doing with Penny here in order to try to get some crazy combo? What are you going to be doing with Leader? Leader just depends on your opponent. So unless your opponent's playing one big card in the final turn, you just copy it. which a lot of the metagame isn't doing that. A lot of the metagame is playing a bunch of little things in order to get a big combo. Maybe it's Zombie Giant Man. Maybe we're going to be copying Zombie Giant Man. I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see on this, y'all. I'm really uncertain on this OTA. I don't feel like I have a good grasp on what this is going to be. I don't know what we're going to be feeling. I don't know how bad, how good this is going to be. I'm with y'all for the ride. I'm interested in seeing how this is going to be going. I'm excited for, you know, changes in the metagame in general, even if I don't know what they're going to be like, or if I don't think they're going to be a drastic change. I like change. I think it's going to be cool. It's going to be pretty great. And let me know what you think, obviously, in the comments down below. I do read all the comments. I just don't respond to all of them because I read something, then I'm like, oh, that's great. I think of a response, and then I never send said response. And if you get annoyed that I don't respond to you in the comments, just be glad that you aren't in a group chat with me. I'm notorious for reading something in a group chat, thinking of a response, and then never sending it. And then they said, hey, Dance, what did you think about this? I'm like, oh, hi, I thought I responded. They're like, yeah, you didn't. Thank y'all for hanging out to the end of the video. You're all freaking amazing people. Hope to see you in the ladder, or in the conquest, or in Grand Arena, or wherever the heck you're gonna be playing some Marvel Snap. Maybe I'll be able to see y'all in the Golden Gauntlet. Anyway, I will be seeing everyone pretty soon here for another video. Thank y'all, take care, and peace out.